Hello, and welcome to the Let's Talk Transformation podcasts. I am delighted to welcome Karl Lillrud today, Thinkers 360 Top Voice 2023, Top 10 AI Thought Leader, author of 8 books, I think, technology expert, and also keynote speaker. And we're going to be discussing the future of work and the future of innovation in the rise of AI and technology, but also how we can craft our own path for moving forward in that digital landscape. So, Karl, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. Karl, you dedicate your time to innovation, but to enabling understanding and personal agency around technology, the digital landscape, but also what mindset you need to be able to make that innovation sustainable and, I feel like saying, for something bigger than you. So a larger quest, let's put it that way. And I know that the atypical mindset is something that you nurtured when you were younger, around not doing things the way they were done just because that's the way we do it. And I love that. And I think that's where we meet in terms of our perceptions, but, constantly challenging things for the greater good and not trying to prove people right or wrong, but to step out of what I call the Cartesian boxes and use our minds, so conscious and subconscious, differently so that we can get to a different enhanced result. Can you tell us a little bit more about this story? I found it fascinating. I'm referring to your TED talk, but not only, where you take us into your world of why you do what you do and how you got there.
Yeah, obviously that's a long story, but real quick, if we cut all the corners and try to just sort of make it into a straight line, my life is very much about not accepting the norm for what it is. The norm is still accepted, but there is always alternatives, and those alternatives can be more challenging, but they can also be more rewarding. So if you have the energy and the time, there is quite a lot to learn from taking those detours, and that is what I'm all about. Allowing for detours, because that is, if we look at it from a experience point of view, taking the same route home from work every day will make you an autopilot. Like your brain will shut off. You will eventually not know how you transported yourself from the office to your home. Because the brain just becomes numb from things that it has recorded so many times over and over again. But if you just choose another route, try like doing this on a daily basis, eventually you see like your world becomes more and more of a flower in a way that keeps on just blossoming and add more colors to your life in a way.
It's interesting.
And that's what I'm so much about, not becoming that gray dull person that says when I'm dying in many years from now, I shouldn't have worked that much. Because if we look at that, I don't believe in that. If you're if you're working on things that you really enjoy. I strongly believe that I will not be that person that says I should not have spent so much time working, because to me it's life is about experiences, and choosing the right path for whatever you do as work is much more connected to adding experiences to your life.
Yeah, and it's experiences that we remember and that fulfill us. I mean, if we are on autopilot a lot of the time. And I worked for 20 years in a very large organization. Now I go back into organizations and I think, wow, so many of these people are on autopilot. But like you say, I only realized that, Karl, because I've stepped out of that position and had a different look at it. But we are so programmed, aren't we, to just look at things the way society or the cultural norms or the norms, let's call it that, think we should. And I think, the future of work is interesting, particularly since COVID, for that. Partly because of generative AI, we'll come to that, and partly because of the way the human brain is wired. And therefore, it'd be interesting if you could tell us what you're seeing. I know you work in a whole range of small and large governments, institutions, companies. What are you seeing in terms of behavior around the future of work and the workplace? Because everybody's saying we must innovate or die, which is true, but it doesn't always yield that result, does it?
Yeah, no. But let's first start with where you one of the points that you pointed out in the beginning. We're not lazy because we're on autopilot. That is how we are configured as cavemen, because it's about conserving energy. And choosing a path that you have not walked on before might involve risks that you are not prepared for. And back in the days, risks equals close to dying in a way.
Yeah.
So it's not that we are lazy as humans, it's that we're trying to stay alive. It's just that our human body and everything that we are configured around is something that have been evolving for so many years. And all of a sudden, technology and the internet and electricity and all that happened and the human body and our configuration did not keep up.
But if I look at those two very different speeds of change, Karl, between what you've just described, where we still revert back to, let's call it fight or flight, the survival instinct, and it takes us a long time to change our mental models and to change the way we see things and things like that. And then you've got this exponential speed of technology, not just AI, but VR, AR, robotics, the whole thing. But let's stick with generative AI, because that's what's going to impact the workplace the most, I feel, for the moment, and I'm happy to have that discussion. But how do you manage? How can we manage and help ourselves manage those two massively different speeds of change?
Maybe it's not about managing. Maybe it's much more about just jumping on board. Because if we look at it from a technology point of view, we're not really managing AI, to be honest. Things happen, and even the scientists are not sure why it's happening. We have removed lots of the previous defined boundaries and limitations to be able to get to the point that we now talk about as artificial intelligence. Before, when we were trying to build artificial intelligence based on rules and limitations, we didn't get there. It's when we removed all those, not all, but many of the safety features, we actually managed to figure out a way for the computer to act and reason in a way that we feel is intelligent.
But it's interesting, my bias in the language that I use, managing technology, because I like to try and feel in control of something that I'm clearly not in control of, and I'm not particularly technical either. So you can sort of hear my fear going, oh, how are we going to manage AI? How do we manage AI? And I'd never even thought of the fact that maybe we're not managing it and maybe it's happening and we need to adapt to that. I really like that lens, because for me, it sounds like there's more room to maneuver, and it's what I see in organizations, or particularly at the tops of organizations, this whole FOMO thing around AI. We need a strategy. We need to do something with AI. And, the fear that goes with that, Karl, because they don't necessarily understand it. And do we have to understand it to do something intelligent with it?
Yeah, that is something that I get as a question on a daily basis. As a professional speaker, that is what the audience every day are looking for when they join an event where I'm speaking, or where a corporate client is saying, could you please come in and help us figure this out, or just put us on the right path. And there is not one right path. The path that leads to success is the path where you dare to take on those challenges and question yourself, to actually realize that, okay, there are things that will change, and there are other areas that might not change as much as we thought. But we need to start experimenting, and that is the key word to any type of success. Not planning for everything to happen in a perfect order, because that's not the case. I would say that, and maybe this is a little bit too easy to just state in this blunt way, but an organization is not an organization without all the team players.
Of course.
Like, you need everyone to do their thing. And for any company now to be successful, you need to start letting those team players play around with this technology. Because we've seen some situations where it's become a serious problem. There's been some news stories, and one of the big ones is Samsung in the beginning, where they encourage employees to use ChatGPT, and all of a sudden you could find company secrets by asking the right queries to ChatGPT. Another thing is where Italy banned OpenAI's product totally for the entire country for a period of time. And that was because OpenAI did not honor GDPR and the right to be forgotten. Because everything that you say to ChatGPT was used as training data. So it was not possible to remove what you had said because the big brain had been trained on it in a way.
Yeah. So is that the biggest challenge you see, Karl? If that's the question you get all the time, what is the biggest challenge you see when you start exchanging with companies on this whole discussion around AI and how it may or may not transform the workplace?
Yeah, I would say that the biggest challenge that companies are struggling with right now is the how the legal department will allow for this type of technology. What is it that the business is asking for? Because maybe the legal department are trying to look at it from another point of view. There is also the marketing department that have totally different requirements. And it's my greatest suggestion to any of these clients that I'm working with is, why are you keep on pushing for this to be the perfect product from the beginning? Because you have not done that with anything else. You have always compared different products. You have always used some sort of sandbox environment or tried something before you push something out. So my strong suggestion to everyone out there is to use this technology internally on mock data as a playground to start with. And then when you figure out, okay, this particular tool or this particular solution that we're looking for is something that we should start working together with AI to be more efficient on. Not assuming that this is the solution and now we just need to start using it.
Yeah. So I'm hearing your suggestion is that they should let their strategy emerge in terms of AI.
Yes. But also, one detail here is, how can we let it emerge with our data? And the answer to that is, don't use your data.
Hence the suggestion to use mock data.
Yeah. So there are solutions where you can actually create synthetic data. Data that looks like your data, but it's not your data. It's structured in the same way and so on, so that you have a data set that you can play around with. And maybe in the beginning, it's not about creating a data set even. Maybe in the beginning, it's for you to start figuring out which AI-enabled tools that will speed your organization up.
And do you think that leaders understand enough about AI, i.e. what it is, and therefore to see how they may be able to use it and what it could be used for? Or is it a race to tick a box and say, AI is here, we need to do something with it, let's just try and do something? Because you know, your book of the Second Brain, I find very interesting around I'm going to put my words on demystifying AI.
Yeah.
And actually making it accessible to people like myself who have no technical, I have technical understanding, I have no technical training, but clearly,
yeah,
you know, life being what it is, I've learned to use technical tools because that's what you do. But I'm interested in how tech savvy the leaders are that you're talking to in terms of AI.
Some are, I wouldn't say tech savvy, but they are trying to stay ahead of the game. They're trying to read all the articles they can find and so on. And some are working very close with the teams that are tech savvy. So they are balancing it in a way. But that's also why so many organizations are asking me to come as a speaker, to make it more convenient and also more friendly to not know everything.
Yes.
Because as a leader, you're expected to have all the answers, yet your tech department knows that you don't know anything about tech in comparison to what they know. So it's more about making this dramatic shift something that everybody feel like, yeah, it's okay to ask the stupid question. It's okay to say something that is inaccurate because we are on a development journey. We don't have all the answers, but together we will figure those answers out.
We're back against the sort of paradigm of knowing vs learning, aren't we? So if I'm a learner, let's put it that way, then it's okay to say I don't know, and it's okay for me to take risks, and maybe I'll fail, and that's how I learn. Or should I say that's my view on failure? But that isn't what the norms would have us do in organizational culture. Well, even societal culture, if I look at the education system. But it's interesting to see what you think that means, therefore, Karl, for leadership in organizations more generally. Because for me, AI is coming up against a leadership paradigm that we know is now obsolete, but we haven't yet shifted to something else. So what do you see happening there?
Yeah, the easiest way to add a little bit more friction to that question is to look at the education system.
Of course.
Because in the education, we have clear boundaries. Either you're a teacher or you're a student.
Yes.
And many schools went out at an early stage and said that if you're using any AI tool, you will be caught, and that will make you into a cheater and whatever that results in. And to me, that's, sorry, but it's bizarre, because whenever they get out in the work market, if they don't have experience by playing around with artificial intelligence tools, they will not have any competitive edge whatsoever. So the education system was really holding all students back from adding some sort of value to their experience package. And if we look at leaders and the leadership structure and the position of the hierarchy that we're looking at, some of this will be managed by artificial intelligence. Like, how do we prioritize between A, B, and C? That is going to be some sort of formula that you as a team can ask, and that let's figure out the word for that. That AI decision support engine.
I like that.
Would then say, based on these factors, this is what would be the least risky, or the most financially viable, or fastest growth factor, or all these different things. So it's about understanding what it is that you're trying to decide on. And we will quite soon see that more and more models are being built around this. Maybe with ChatGPT as a background, or any of the other LLMs that are out there. That doesn't really matter. The term that I'm looking for is sort of user interface.
Yes. Yeah.
Because back in the days, we've been talking about graphical user interface. We've been talking about user experience. What we see now is the big shift to natural user interface, where we have a natural conversation, just like you and me. Okay, so we as a team and everybody's talking at the same time, maybe during a call just like this, with their decision engine, saying, yeah, we're trying to achieve this and this. Yeah, but we're low on budget. Yeah, but we still need to push this out on the market. And everybody's talking at the same time. And the AI will be able to separate all the voices, collect everybody's input and say, okay, so this is what I caught up. This is what I think. And this is my different suggestions based on these different deliverables that you're looking for.
Which is a good way of harnessing the diverse voices in that room, because often they're just not heard, are they? Or our bias overtakes some of them because that's not what we want to hear. So we just go into a different direction. And I think it is about redefining boundaries, isn't it? The whole AI decision-making discussion.
Yeah, and it's going to be quite interesting when we see this taking place naturally.
Yeah.
Because some people will speak out, some will use chat, some will zoom out, and then maybe the AI can start a separate conversation and say like, yeah, Karl, can't you just share your input? You used to have some comments on this. And then I'm like, yeah, but I just cut my hand. Okay, so I will let you take care of that wound, and then I'll wait for your response. Like, there are things happening in our daily life as well that makes us humans.
Yeah.
And the AI models are quite good at handling this if we treat them as humans.
Yes, and not technology that we need to manage, to come back to my earlier statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It brings me to your Innovation Factory initiative. Because for me, that is about redefining the boundaries of education, and also the way we learn. Everybody learns really differently because human beings are very different, which is why user experience is very different and starts with empathy. You know, there's lots of different profiles there. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Innovation Factory and the bigger quest of the Innovation Factory?
Yeah, so if I just zoom out a little bit, I started 28 years ago as an entrepreneur. To learn from other entrepreneurs was, to me, looking at inventors that actually did inventions, small gadgets, basically. And then the internet really happened for real, and things started to move faster and faster. As I started with, I have always been pushing boundaries. But I found that culture was holding me and other entrepreneurs back. And there's different cultures wherever we look. And that is something that we need to understand, that even though you speak the same language, you might have a background, you might have a family situation, you might have something that makes your reasoning different.
Oh, completely.
And that is super interesting, especially from an innovation point of view, when we think we are talking the same language. We're trying to say like, yeah, all the ideas are good ideas. You can throw anything out there, but people will still hesitate and say like, yeah, but I don't want to come up with a bad idea. Like, yeah, but that is sort of part of the process.
Yeah.
To stumble, and the term that I love is failing forward. And that is how I see it. There is no failures whatsoever. We always fail forward, because as we add some sort of experience, we add more knowledge, and with that knowledge, we get closer to whatever goal it is that we're trying to achieve. So I started to work with people that wanted to find a separate path than just the standardized one. And that turned out to be something super valuable. And it shaped into what I today call the Innovation Factory. And some countries have been innovative for many years, but some other countries in this world have been limiting this energy in a way.
It's culture again, though, isn't it? Often culture and mindset. Yeah.
culture and structure and just trying to make sure that a population is managed in the best way at the time, and then things change, and that needs to change as well.
And so the Innovation Factory is a program. What can you tell a little bit more about what it is?
Yeah, so the Innovation Factory is a program. As we've been targeting universities mostly, but also some organizations that have shown an interest. We built it around the curriculum, but the curriculum is super flexible. So it takes you from no idea to defining an idea, questioning an idea, pressure test that, and then go back again to see, okay, are we still on the right track? What happens if we change this? Can we repurpose parts of what we invented along this journey as micro products, and so on and so on? So it's not an accelerator, because an accelerator is more connected to someone that already have an idea, that have done something. This is for people that haven't started with that yet. And we create ideas that they can be part of, or if they come with an idea, that there will be people that might want to be part of that idea.
Okay, and what do you think? Because as you say that, I'm thinking of more regenerative models. You know, the models that are coming out, circular economy, the donut model, things like that, and just regenerative models in general. And we're starting to talk about regenerative leadership, and everyone will have a different definition of that. But it's interesting what you say around what, therefore, could the Innovation Factory type of program and AI bring to innovation around more sustainable regenerative models? Because we talk about it needs different leadership in organizations, because that's my sweet spot, but clearly in society it's the same. So how do you see AI? I'm going to call it in inverted commas AI for good, because it's for a bigger quest. How can we use it to create more regenerative models, Karl?
Maybe we should set the term AI for speed, because that is what I see most of the time, is that we run faster. It's not that we use AI to solve all problems, and we're not handing over the decision to an AI. The AI is there to give us options, and then it's up to us to actually decide. Like, for example, if we look at Midjourney, and you ask Midjourney to generate an image for you, you get 4 options, and it's up to you to decide which one is the one that you like the most. So it's still up to us to actually make that decision. But the AI solutions are there to support us and make us run faster.
Okay, it's interesting, because I know you looked at this question with the World Economic Forum in Davos around, you know, how AI can prevent war.
Yes.
And that already got me thinking, okay, how can it therefore essentially be used for more strategic long-term thinking? I like the fact that you've just very clearly said the decision is still ours, and we're speeding up options and sort of mixing up data to give us different options. What do you think that capacity means for models in the future? I mean, we went quite quickly, particularly after COVID, from pyramidal organizations and quite hierarchical decision-making structures to ecosystems and more sort of decentralized decision-making, but because we had to, Karl, because we were forced to. So it's interesting to see how we could leverage that for more a more balanced society.
Yeah, I think it's again connected to leadership in a way. Like if we were to instruct an AI, let's say solution rather than model or tool. If we were to instruct an AI solution to support us in doing good, it would do good. If we were to say to this solution, I want to make the most amount of money that I can in shortest time without having even lifting a finger, it would do that as well. How is this even possible? Sorry, I was totally muting everything and still my phone is calling.
No worries.
I can't even turn it off. Yeah, so flight mode. No.
No worries. Yeah.
So we're getting back to leadership. And leadership is about understanding how to support growth. It's not about managing growth and going into the details. It's to be that fuel for the engine in a way, because your team is the engine.
Absolutely. Like you said, organizations don't transform, people do. So if you don't have the team members, of course.
Yeah. And we all, just to add a little bit of concern, we do see AI models that make own decisions. They are already there. US just launched a fighter jet that is AI controlled, and they let it go through a simulated battle in real flight, and it won against all the other fighter jets, like the world's best pilots in there, and it just, as you sort of see in cinema movies, like it owned that space and no one could compete on that level.
That's quite scary.
It is scary, because that means that we are now handing over that decision to drop bombs from a development point of view. Like, it is there, it can. It's now the question, will we let it too?
Yeah, hence, it's an assumption of mine, hence your book around the second brain of AI, so that people actually start to understand what it can do, the potential, and therefore what they would like it to do.
Yes. Because it's so much about all you guys that are listening to this show. To take that step, not take that leap. Don't look at it like that. Take a tiny step and then another one and then another one. And then eventually you will fall and then you will rise up and you will learn from that. Don't think that you're starting with this huge technology solution that you don't understand, and you hear that it's consuming so much energy and everything. And like, you don't need to think of the complexity behind it, because there are thousands of tiny tools that can help you, just like an ant farm, to do specific chores.
I think it's the fear, though, isn't it? And I'm going to put a capital T on the fear. The sort of the fear of what it could mean. I mean, the situation you've just given us is quite a scary situation, but doesn't mean that everything is going to be following that model. But that's where we have our agency, isn't it?
Yeah. And then we're getting into the like, who's controlling who? Are we in control of the technology that's controlling us? Or is the technology now in control?
Yeah, well, I think it's up to us to make sure that it's our agency that, I'm hesitant to use the word control, but yes, that has leverage over the technology and not the other way around. But it's interesting. It brings me to your personal vision for tech, Karl. So, for work and life, if I put us out into 2030, what is your vision for that? It will be then an AI-enabled society. It already is. But if, 10 years from now, what would that look like?
I think that AI will help us to become more human in a way, and less robotic. We will use humanoids and hand over chores that we humans should not do to technology. Like, if we look at Amazon, they have a workforce of 750,000 robots.
Wow.
I think that is great, because we should not have people work in these huge warehouse facilities with no windows and basically lose the opportunity to find happiness in life.
I mean, it sort of brings us right back round, Karl, to your 28 years of entrepreneurship, and we briefly went through your story, but you know, what are your biggest learnings from that 28-year journey? Because that spans quite a lot of huge shifts for society, technological and other. What would you say your sort of biggest learnings from your journey to date have been?
If we look at it from a global point of view, when we move too fast, we crash.
Okay.
And we're moving extremely fast right now. So either we find a new way to design a bumper, or we will crash.
Yeah.
And that crash this time, or if we look at it, the big crashes that we have had are sort of growing every time. So we need to figure out how to either mitigate the crash so that it becomes many small ones, maybe not build too big dependencies to the big tech providers, and separate so that you as an organization, like if we play with the idea of, as we talked about OpenAI and being banned in Italy, if that happens for an organization that have built all their infrastructure in connection with OpenAI, that would be a huge problem for that company. So keep that in mind, and have, just like when you design a server facility, you have multiple power sources, you have multiple internet connection lines, and from different internet service providers and so on. Like, we can't just think that, yeah, this tool is the best, it's going to solve all my problems. Because all of a sudden we get into a situation like, for example, Adobe, that went out and said that in their latest license agreement to all users, whatever you produce will also be owned by us. All your creative deliveries that you're producing with our tools will be licensed by us and used for our AI technology to be trained on. Obviously, the world felt that this is not acceptable, so they received that pressure, if we may call it. And now they reverted and say, okay, this was perhaps not the best language to use. We will reconsider and get back to you.
I just put different language on it.
Yeah. So things like that will happen. We saw a similar thing with Zoom a couple of months ago, where they said that everything that's being said in a meeting will be used in our modeling so that we can train our AI on that.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I mean, I'm back to those ethical questions, aren't we, about who controls who and what's okay and what's not okay. I mean, you touched on GDPR, but it's bigger than that, of course.
Yes, especially when we talk about meetings that discuss maybe company secrets, but maybe also governmental secrets, personal secrets as well. And in a way, we sort of lost touch with the IT-related threats when we started to talk about artificial intelligence and training models. What if one of these models gets a worm that somehow becomes a Pandora's box of opportunities, where that virus grows into manipulating responses, but also manipulating questions that are guiding us to a direction we don't want to go. But like, yeah, I want to make this food. Yeah, then you should use these things. Yeah, but I'm allergic to that. No, you're not. Like, to take it to the extreme, things might change in a way that we are not prepared for.
And how can we guard against that, Karl? What do you think our capacity as human beings is to be able to guard against that?
difficult to answer. I don't think we really can, but it's just like when you receive an email and you feel like there's something wrong with this email, but it's from the postal office. Is it really from the postal office? And you feel like something is wrong. That intuition, that gut feeling tends to be right.
Yes.
Most of the time, actually.
Yeah. So trust our intuition.
Yeah. So then we go over to where we started in a way, the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
Like there is more to you than you.
Yep.
Believe in that and make use of that. We don't need to explain everything. We just need to trust some of these impulses.
Wow. I really like that idea. And I was going to ask you, as it comes to a close, if you had a final call to action or recommendations for our listeners. That one was very powerful. I don't know if that's your call to action, or, what would be your call to action for listeners who are thinking, okay, I need to do something. I need to either educate myself more on AI, I need to understand the impacts more, or I need to understand where I can have leverage in what seems like it is a huge topic, but I believe that we can always have leverage at our level.
Yeah. So I have a couple of things. First of all, just go to my website, karllillrud.com, where you can get my latest book for free. You just fill in your email address and you will get an ebook version.
Okay.
That book will also quite soon be released as an audiobook, so you can listen to it.
Okay. Cool.
And I'm giving it away for free because I feel like this is something that the world needs. We need to get started. We can't have this slow shift of everyday consumers that are not using the technology that is available, and many of these different solutions are available for free as well. Another thing that I started to propose in Davos and the World Economic Forum week actually is become a micro mentor or coach. Spend 15 minutes of your time to support someone, or ask someone, could I ask you for 15 minutes of mentoring me or coaching me because I need it. And don't feel like you need to be trained on this. Have a conversation that is guided by someone else. Like, I want to do this. Can you guide me? Because all of us have 15 minutes.
Of course. Yeah.
And that is how I feel that we can support the younger generation that comes from an education system that is built on rights and wrongs into a society that doesn't work based on those terms. There are so many more rights than wrongs, but we still keep on talking about either right or wrong.
Yeah, and then it depends on your lens and the definition of right, of course, and wrong.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Okay, excellent. Karl, thank you so much for coming and sharing your insights, your experience, your stories. And you've already mentioned your website. Is that the best place for our listeners to get in contact with you and find out more about what you do, or are there other areas as well?
Yeah, so karllillrud.com, and then of course social media. If you go for Instagram or LinkedIn, just search for Karl Lillrud and you find me there.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Thanks for a great conversation.
Thank you.